I'm gonna be honest with you. I watched this movie last night. Last night, I watched this because I had to. I've made it no real secret this is not my favorite MCU movie.
Right.
I watched it last night. I woke up this morning and I did not even remember that I watched it. And that is my review of Thor: The Dark World, the most forgettable film in the MCU. Thank you for coming to our podcast. We'll see you next week. That's how this works, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we want it to be, technically that could be exactly how it works. But
I tried. I really tried, guys.
the funny thing is, I watched it a few days prior, like last week, and yeah, I'm in worse shape than PJ because I actually also think it's forgettable. This was a movie that I really wanted to. I was really looking forward to rewatching. This has always been one that's kind of been like the redheaded stepchild of Phase One for specifically, and of the MCU in general. Phase Two, of the early era, I should say. Actually, when you talk about the early era, this is like the one that gets shit on the most. And I kind of was like, it's got Thor in it. I like Thor. I like Chris Hemsworth. I love Tom Hiddleston as Loki. I mean, how bad could it actually be? I mean, the fact that I didn't remember should say something.
Right.
But I was looking forward to rewatching. Maybe give it some time, some break. Let's go back and let's reappraise this from a different angle. Well, I did, and unfortunately, it did not go well for the movie for me either.
No.
As well.
Look, man, I really tried.
Yeah.
I really wanted to believe that I misremembered the movie. And it's funny because we were talking about it before we went live. Like, one of the things that always made me laugh is that they really made this movie matter to the canon in Endgame. Like, they made the Dark World really, really matter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, it can't be that bad, right?
I remember that being a talking point too. Like, they're bringing Thor: The Dark World in. I'm like, yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Sweet. I must be a better movie than I remember. Well,
it's sure not, man. And I really feel bad. Like, I don't like not liking this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously, I mean, this is no spoilers at this point. We're like, it's going to be our least favorite MCU film, I think, by far, even before we get to rating the film. It just doesn't. The thing is, it's like not even like awful. Like, we can talk on and on about like all the decisions they made that were wrong. It's just so blah.
It's boring.
It's just not like you said it best before. It's a nothing burger kind of thing. There's just nothing going on in it, really. And the thing is, there is stuff going on, but it doesn't feel like there's. I think my quote that I wrote to you in text, and we texted about this a little bit while we were watching, it has this facade of everything a Thor film should be, in like as far as like story goes and performances go and everything else, and yet it feels like it's just like a fake version of that with no heart. Like someone basically, it's almost like AI got a Thor story and put it up on screen. That's what it really feels like to me. There's parts that I should be feeling things that I'm not. There's characters I should be reacting to that I'm not. Or if at best I'm like, oh, you sweet summer child, you're trying so hard, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. It's just not, unfortunately, working out for you or the film in general.
This is the worst case version, and it's a thing that Marvel's actually done a really good job of doing for the most part in avoiding, is doing a thing just because they have to.
Right.
You know, like they're not usually when they do a movie like this, it's usually not a problem.
Yeah. Right.
So this movie feels like a chore because it doesn't feel it doesn't feel like anyone involved really wants to be involved in this movie.
That is
and it doesn't help that I think this is also the one movie honestly in the entirety of the MCU that is directed by someone who just is not like an interesting filmmaker. Alan Taylor is a great TV guy. He did episodes of Game of Thrones. Like, he's done all sorts of stuff.
Mad Men, Sopranos.
Yeah, The Sopranos.
Sex and the City.
And that's it. Look, I'll get credit where credit's due. The Many Saints of Newark, which came out, during COVID, the Sopranos movie, the prequel, he directed that. And it was good. You know why? Because it wasn't like the stuff that he was doing. Because every time he's touched a blockbuster, it's pretty much fallen apart because do we remember also Terminator Genesis?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we do. Unfortunately, we very
Um,
much so do.
like the guy is just not an interesting filmmaker in
And Many
any
Saints of Newark is like a TV, almost like a TV movie, honestly. It really
right.
is. And that's why it works for him. He just gets TV in that way that's structured and everything else. This is just too big for him. This is just way too big for him. I think he did this. Did he do Game of Thrones before this or after this? I can't remember now.
Before, I believe. I'm looking just
Okay,
to
so
be
that
sure.
must be
He's
what
done
it
all
is. Yeah.
sorts of shit, dude, like West Wing, Deadwood, Carnival, 6 Feet Under. He did a lot yeah, he was doing Game of Thrones back in season 1
Yeah,
and 2.
season one. That's right. See, and that's I guess that's I'm guessing that's where they got him from because like it's like oh, it's a medieval fantasy realm kind of
Right.
thing. He could do this. Unfortunately, it's not the same kind of story at all, and it just there's a lot of this should feel vibrant, colorful. Like Game of Thrones is like a dire show. It's like a
Yeah.
depressing show. It's like the worst times. It's supposed to have that kind of like almost a muted fantasy. Like
Mhm.
it's not really fantasy. It just takes place in that kind of time frame. This is on the other hand, it's supposed to be this vibrant, colorful, like energetic. Like Thor
World.
should always be, Rainbow Bridge. Like it's boom. And like I look at the screen and I see like the colors on screen, but even the colors just seem muted and dour and like not explosive off the screen. It doesn't feel big enough. It doesn't feel like a cinematic enough type of movie.
Well, and I think that comes down to the script too, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, this is the one of the few times where, like, Marcus and McFeely couldn't even save it.
Hmm.
Christopher Yost is the other person on board for the screenplay, but like Marcus and McFeely, who did the Cat movies and the Avengers movies for the Russo brothers, they're usually pretty good writers, and they usually can pull things together pretty easily. As haphazard as some of these productions have gone and put together, like you look at Civil War, where it was a real like, are we even going to get Spider-Man into this movie?
Right.
And still making it work once it landed.
Right. I
Something
will.
about this movie.
I just want to throw something out there really quick. I will say that Taylor has come out on record as saying that Marvel substantially altered his vision during post production.
Yes. And this is
Now,
also one of the Marvel creative team eras.
right, exactly. And I'm just throwing out there, like a lot of directors will say that after a movie is like not received well, they'll say, "Oh, the studio screwed it." I don't know the truth. I wasn't there, but I think I just want to. That is on record that he does that. So maybe this is not entirely his fault. Um, and I would believe that because there is a lot of story plays. I remember reading that. I forget the name of that book now, but it was a phenomenal book, the Rise of the MCU,
Yeah.
or whatever. Great in-depth detail about exactly what you're talking about the Marvel Studio period, where there was just a lot of cooks in the kitchen at that point. Kevin Feige was trying to wrestle with like complete control. He didn't quite have it yet, and it really showcased in this kind of film. And honestly, I think it's the worst parts of Iron Man 2 suffer from that as well. Worst Captain America, the first Avenger, feels like it got away from it. Almost like it almost felt like Captain America, the first Avenger, as a timepiece movie, like almost like Marvel Studios didn't care about it enough to
Yeah.
really F with it as much. You're like, okay, you could do your own thing, kind of thing. Because they were worried about the present day stuff. It feels like that anyway. I just don't
See,
like my own thing, but
and here's what I'll say. The guy who was the director of photography said that they wanted a grittier, boots on the ground feeling inspired by what Alan and I had done on Game of Thrones. We wanted the realms to feel grounded like a real place while at the same time respecting the magical planet of the gods feeling and theme. So even if they changed things, the intent up front was to do something more tactile and grounded. And I'm
that's
not
not
interested in
Thor.
that version of Thor. And that
Yeah,
I think the truth of the matter is that's kind of where I land on this movie is that I'm just not interested in trying to ground Thor in any sort of way.
agreed.
And it's more interesting to do anything else with him. Really push him to do other things and like make it bold, make it colorful. That's why Ragnarok works so well.
I was about to say which is why they completed a 180 for me in Age of
Yeah.
Ragnarok, and that was a much better version of what we got. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. That to me that seems like such an idiotic decision. Anyway, when the criticisms of the first Thor was mostly around its the Thor on Earth storyline, which we defended. We like the fish out of water thing. We
I
kind of got
love
out there
that.
going with
It
that.
makes me happy.
And that's fine. Oh, that's fine. We get it. But that was the criticism was like, well, you're taking Thor out of the magical realm and stuff, and like you're putting him on Earth, and it loses some of its magic. And I understand the argument. I didn't mind it. Like I said, we were okay with it. I didn't mind it. You actually really loved it. But if the criticism was that, and that's what people like wanted to see more magical Thor, why would you go in trying to make a gritty boots in the ground Thor movie when that's it feels like you're being like tone deaf at this point, like to what the fans want from this character. And I'm not saying you should always listen to the fans because fans are idiots half the time anyway. But it seems like when it's that kind of a direction, like that almost everybody was pretty much we want magical Thor, we want cosmic Thor, we want don't go the other way with it.
And I think that's the problem with this movie. And the truth of the matter is the movie's also just not that interesting. The Dark Elves really are just not very good villains, and Eccleston's given nothing to do, which Christopher Eccleston has maybe the worst track record at picking big budget projects
Maybe.
of anyone outside of Matt Smith.
That's the former doctors, man. They just can't get it right in the big budget
Well,
movies, pretty much.
and both of them in Alan Taylor movies, funny enough.
That's true. Good call. Good call.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even Matt was in Soho, which was the worst of the Last Night in Soho, the least of the
Edgar Wright movies.
Edgar Wright movies, and that's like something. I mean, hell, even David Tennant hasn't done a whole lot of. At least he was in a blockbuster hit with the Harry Potter movies, but that wasn't really him. He could have been anybody could have been in that.
And I'll say this: where credit's due. Tenet is in what I consider one of the all-time great horror remakes. It didn't like do amazing at the box office, but his Fright Night is fantastic. Like that is a great movie. If you have not seen that movie, you really need to check out the Fright Night that he was in with Anton Yelchin because it is awesome.
It's a great duo right there too. That's a great.
Oh my god! Well, Colin Farrell is the villain.
Yep.
Like of the Vampire Next Door. Imogen Poots is in it. Like, oh god, that's a good movie, dude.
I will throw out there Peter Capaldi was in the James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy, so he did okay.
Suicide Squad.
I mean, Suicide Squad, Guardians of the Galaxy. Thank you. Suicide Squad. DC's Guardians of the Galaxy, basically, almost the way they do it. But Suicide Squad movie, which was pretty successful overall, I think. So he's pretty innocent at this point, luckily.
No, I mean, Capaldi's also Capaldi. He's also in the Paddington movies. He gets a pass for life.
That's true. That's right. I forgot he was in Paddington. That's right. He was awesome in Paddington. By the way, I know you know about it, but I want to shout out there how awesome was it he made an appearance at Glastonbury.
Oh my god,
Franz
dude!
Ferdinand.
It was. I've watched that video more times than I should say out loud.
He just gets the rock star introduction, comes out, sunglasses on, like a little rock star, and he really is. Or I mean, it's funny.
Well, he was Moffat, quite literally.
Quite literally. Steve Moffat like tweeted like this is the doctor all the doctors are jealous of, or like this is the cool doctor.
He's the coolest doctor now.
It really is, and he is. Like so the funniest thing I watched that I'm like, I almost could see this as being canonically the 12th Doctor coming out and doing this pretty much. That's what it felt like. He's just that cool, that good. Good for him though. It was a lot of fun to say.
Speaking of Edgar Wright, by the way, the Running Man trailer dropped today, and it looks so fun.
It does. It looks like he captured the tone pretty much right. It's going to be a little less. It's going to be a little less obvious than the '80s, like cartoonish, like over the top, like cartoonish vibes. It's going to be a little more toned down, but I think it's going to be still going to be a lot of fun. I think Glenn Powell is actually perfect for this role at this point. I feel like this is him getting to stretch a little bit out from his normal action stuff he's done and be a little bit more unhinged. And I kind of like that about him in this one. And Coleman Jangle looks great. Josh Brolin looks fucking awesome, funny as hell. Like this looks good. It looks exactly like I wanted it to look. Unhinged, fun. Yeah, a little less. So we talked about in our chat, like we didn't see a lot of Edgar Wright isms. But that might be like just the first trailer. It might be him doing more of an IP and not like an original written movie kind of thing. A lot of possibilities, but
I also love that this looks so much more like the Stephen King dystopian nightmare than like an Arnold movie.
Right.
And it just looks like chaos in the best way, and it looks like I'll be able to enjoy both versions of them separately, which I'm really happy about.
Exactly. 'Cause I love the Arnold movie.
I do too, but it's not a like great adaptation,
Right. No, not at
you
all.
know. And I mean, they've talked about that. It was never meant to be like King doesn't love the Arnold one.
No, of
No
course he
real
doesn't.
shot. But
Thing
like
is kind of
this is
prickly with his adaptations sometimes, like especially when he's not really involved in it. And I get that. Be protective of
oh
your
yeah,
shit, absolutely, 100%.
but like this looks big and fun and like chaotic
Yeah,
and exactly the kind of movie we need right now.
yeah, I agree. I really agree on that. I think it's
Yeah,
gonna be so much
and
fun.
it just I was happy to be like watching it and being like, yeah, man, like I'm in for this. The
Hmm.
joy I feel watching this is like palpable, you know?
Hmm.
And that's a
Hmm.
nice feeling because sometimes you just want something fun.
I fully agree.
You
Which
see
is
how
a
happy I am
bad
talking about this?
segue back to what's not fun. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to say the funny thing was actually I wanted to say this before we tangented. It actually is a great way to bring this back. I was talking to you beforehand about how I made time where if you're obviously this is on Patreon, as a member, YouTube member, Patreon exclusive right now. If you're hearing this in the public, this means it's way down the line because it's like we're
Yeah.
recording this back in this is July 1st. We're recording this. At
The Running Man has come and gone at this point,
this point,
actually.
exactly. We'll see. I'll let you know how it was great. Wasn't it awesome, PJ? I loved
Yeah,
it.
I loved it. It fucking Edgar Wright, man. He barely misses.
Uh, but at this time, in the main channel, the main series we're doing is the Superman series going up to James Gunn's Superman film, which is also awesome, by the way. Hopefully,
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
um, but we are on. We just finished doing Batman v Superman last week, and next week we're doing Zack Snyder's Justice League. We've been we alternate weeks in recording, and in between, for the hell of it, I was like, well, I'm going to watch Wonder Woman. And I loved watching Wonder Woman. I thought it was a wonderful film, and I almost wish we covered it in DCU, but we're not doing Wonder Woman. We're doing Superman,
Right.
so it didn't make sense. But Wonder Woman was one thing that Man of Steel and Batman v Superman wasn't as much. It had a lot more fun in it in a way, and I really feel like this episode, this film, Thor: The Dark World, is like the closest thing we get to a DCEU Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
It just is dour, dark. It's like they wanted to have that dark tone, that Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy tone. They did it with Man of Steel, and we both appreciated Man of Steel. We both actually rated it pretty high.
We rated it quite high, in fact. Shout out to the Snyder bots who fucking found us already and were like yelling at us about BVS, which we also both
rated not bad. I only
yeah,
rated that like 7.5 out of 11, I think.
yeah,
We did something like that. We liked it. We just thought we wanted to. We liked it. We wanted to love it.
I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this is not happening. What the
So
hell
funny.
is going on, dude?
I was like, okay, cool, bro. Cool story, bro. But Thor: The Dark World feels that way. It just feels like it's dark. I wanted to love it, but I didn't. I didn't even like it, unfortunately, because it just felt dark, dour, and almost humorless. Like there's stabs of humor in here, but like the jokes don't really even hit half the time. Like it's very rare that anything really. It's very rare that anything hits in this movie, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's obvious to me why Ragnarok was such a 180.
Well,
Especially
and you had to so to that point, it's also because what I said earlier, you got Taika. You got someone with like a real specific vibe and voice.
vibe, yeah.
And the big problem with this movie is there's no vibe or voice, man.
No, it's just kind of blah. If anybody's voice comes clear in this movie at all, I think it's Tom Hiddleston. Because Tom Hiddleston is completely innocent and really does a amazing job and makes this movie watchable at times. Like it feel like I got engaged when he was on screen. I got engaged. It's like, okay, cool. He's doing the Lord's work right now and carrying this thing on his back. There's only so long he can do it, especially because he's not like the main character. I mean, he is a main character. You know what I mean? Though he's not like
No, but you're right.
Time.
And to be honest, I had this thought while I was watching it because it starts so promising when he's finally brought to Asgard to like be confronted with the crimes that he's committed.
Right.
The whole movie should be about that.
I fully agree.
Like,
this should be a Loki movie.
Right. They immediately basically throw that out. And it's really, really frustrating because all I could think while I was sitting there watching it was I'd be so much more interested if this was a movie about him dealing with his crimes and then, like, going after the people in Asgard once he was
Yes.
captured. I mean, you're kinda repeating beats from the first one in some capacity, I'm sure, but, like, I don't really care
I
because
fully
I'd
agree.
rather the movie be dealing with that because when he's on screen, the movie's much more watchable and much more enjoyable.
And it actually has like something to say because it feels like we have development from Loki in this one. Like Loki had his crimes, he did his thing, and he tells Odin, he's like, I was going down to Earth to rule, and you can tell like a lot of it's from his jealousy of his brother and his imposter complex for where he grew or where he came from and where he is in the court. But his scenes in his dungeon cell were wonderful. Like this idea where he makes up this vision of his mother he's talking to. And then afterwards, when Frigga is killed during the attack, that moment where Thor comes down and he's like doing his thing, and Thor's like, cut the vision or whatever, and he does cut it, and he's like sitting there all like despondent and like dirty and like down. That felt like a genuine something I want to explore more. This God who's going through an emotional whirlwind right now. That
Yeah.
was interesting to me. But they kind of they pass it off as like this, like okay. And next, as soon as he gets out, as soon as Thor gets him out to go on this mission, then it just becomes kind of like it's almost like he forgets. He's like, oh, he's back to being Loki again. It's kind of like, and that's not on Tom. That's just the way the story is supposed to go. We can't do a whole lot with it. It was given, but like, I don't know. I almost wish Loki had stayed in the prison a little while longer. He could have developed more in there, I think, potentially.
They don't seem to know what to do with him. And
Yeah.
it's really, really, really jarring. And that's kind of the whole movie, is that I feel like they just didn't know what to do with these characters. And you'd never wanna watch a movie and feel like the people involved don't necessarily know how to push these characters forward, but
Yeah.
there's just nothing there happening. And I
I
know
think
that they're doing this because of, like, obviously the Avengers, you need to follow up and, like, you do something with these characters leading to the next one. And yeah, like, the Aether ends up being important down the line, but, like, otherwise, there's nothing here for the characters to do. It doesn't push them forward. There's no real, like, anything of interest.
the thing is, there is something of interest, but it's not done well enough to focus. And that's basically Loki's face turn, to use a wrestling
Mhm.
term. Like, because he becomes this, like, kind of, sort of de facto good guy. People talk about the villains of the MCU the entire time. I've always said Loki was my favorite villain. And people always quick to bring up, well, he's not really a villain anymore, especially now. He's like more of like a good. I'm like, I know, but he still was my favorite villain when he was a villain.
Yeah.
And this is the film where he does like he has those moments where he's still mostly Loki and he still does his thing. But at the end, you kind of see like he's still got that selfish thing, but he's still mostly doing things for the good. Even like when he takes over for Odin at the end, there when he's like pretending to be Odin, it still doesn't feel like the same Loki that took over Asgard in the first film. It looked like he was like actually doing right by Thor in a way. How he got there might have been a dangerous thing, or whatever, but there's still that kind of like pathway. So this is the movie that is actually the best thing about this. Not even the best thing. The most important and long-lasting thing is how Loki goes from Thor to the Avengers as like the major villain, and he kind of like starts his semi-redemptive arc that he goes on. But it's just kind of glanced over as a subplot when honestly it's by far the most interesting part of the story.
Mhm. Mhm. Easily, because that he's the one character that has any real growth to him.
He's
Um,
also the one actor that feels like he's really super trying. Like he
yeah.
feels like he wants to be there. He feels like he wants to do this role. He wants to do the thing justice. Everyone else, even Chris Hemsworth, just feels like he's kind of
Well, you know why? Because I don't think Thor's written in a way that plays to his strengths.
no, it's not.
Um,
He was cast because he's a musculature blonde
but
guy.
not just that, you nailed it earlier. When you brought up that there's not a lot of humor in this movie,
Yeah,
you know the thing that Hemsworth's really good at?
humor.
Humor. And that's why, like or hate the first Thor movie, the fish out of water stuff works for me because it makes Thor fun and relatable. And he's like, there's something to the character when he's able to be that guy. And
Here,
in this movie, he's not. Like, there's he's just missing some of his charisma because they've cut back on his humor so much.
And here's the problem with it. And the idea that I have is that in the Marvel comics, we're talking about the source material, Thor is not humorous. He's noble, yes, and but he's grim most of the time. Right. He's like powerful, but he's usually kind of like going through all sorts of shit. He very rarely cracks a joke. It's usually other characters doing it on his behalf. But that's why Chris Hemsworth is not cast as a good Marvel Comics Thor.
Sure.
However, Thor in the MCU is a little bit of a different beast. And that's why when you saw that first Thor movie, I think that's part of the problem people had also is like the fish out of water thing. Like Thor's cracking jokes. It feels a little weird. Yeah, but then you do the story when he's not cracking jokes much. He's more of the dark side thing. You get something like this, and it doesn't work as a movie in this version of the Marvel universe. If you wanted to do a different kind of Marvel universe, maybe the dark Thor would work, but it'd have to be different than Chris Hemsworth because that's the dark stuff is not Chris Hemsworth's strength at all. The drama side of things, the darker side of things, he does not excel at that. It's not saying he can't do it. He can.
No, I've seen him do it in other movies. It's just
doesn't work here.
No.
And the Avengers is kind of a different Thor because it's smaller. Like he has lesser. It's like he's not the focal character, so he has like these moments of shining here and there, and that's why when Ragnarok happens and that 180 comes, all of a sudden we're using his humor. Now, I'm going to say it. I'll say it out loud here, and I'll talk about it a lot more in the Ragnarok pack. You know what I'm about to say here, and I'll say it. I am a big fan of Hercules in the Marvel comics.
Yeah,
Thor Ragnarok is basically Hercules from the Marvel comics. Yeah. It's the funnier side of things, and that's what it is. So I actually have gotten Hercules MCU film. It's called Thor Ragnarok, unfortunately. but that is what they wanted to get out of the situation, which is why it's weird because I don't know what they're going to do with Brett Goldstein when he does the Hercules thing. Like, well, what are they going to do? Because they already made Thor Hercules. What do they do with I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Unless they make him a Hercules.
I still think that a Thor and Hercules buddy film going through the cosmos is like the move.
Oh, I think that's the way to go. I think you can make. I meant as far as like Herc's character goes. Thor became Hercules. What does Hercules become? I think you're going to make him a replacement Thor. I think that's what you do. I think it's okay to make him like not a carbon copy, but you have their own things, but be the similar kind of like humor. He's got to be the humorous like kind of guy. That's what Hercules really is. But yeah, that's what I mean though. In this film, he's not. It's also dark and dour, and like it just slows down the film. It doesn't feel like an MCU film. Mm-mm. And people will complain sometimes how Marvel can get too formulaic and they get too much of the Marvel humor injected into certain things. And that's not entirely inaccurate at times. There's definitely there's a line, and like it's definitely happened. The time we've probably gone a little bit too far. Some things they should have taken a big beat for, and there's too many one-liners that happened that maybe they should have taken a pause on or something to that effect. But and here it's like the opposite. It's like they needed to inject more of that MCU into this one. It just doesn't feel fun. There's no fun to this movie at all, except for Loki. There's Loki. Like for example, when Loki disguises himself as Chris Evans' Captain America. That felt fun. That felt like the MCU. Chris Evans making a great kind of little cameo. That was a lot of fun. I was like, this is the kind of stuff we've been missing the entire movie. Unfortunately, it's just like this little 30-second thing. And that's almost everything we got.
I just wish that they were doing anything of note in this movie that would make it stand out from anything else. But one of the things that drives me nuts, and they've been bad about this in all three of the movies that these characters appear in, but they also have the Warriors 3 in this and Sif, and they just don't do anything with them. Like, they just don't.
I was actually going to say, Ray Stevenson was also innocent. He actually maybe chuckled a few times, and he was really trying, I think. I think he wanted to be there.
Yeah. Well, I am not saying this, obviously, because of his more recent, skirmishes in his politics and shit, but like Zachary Levi is very badly cast in this.
I agree.
His Fandral, it just comes off as really forced, and it's so weird because he doesn't have a lot to do, but every time he delivers a line of dialogue, it doesn't really land.
No, it feels like, honestly, it kind of feels like a live action version of his Tangled character.
Yeah,
like that's what it feels like.
Good way.
And not a good, and that's what I mean. Like that's not what Fandral is. Like Fandral is kind of not that character or whatever. And you're right. I mean, Fandral, He has like I think I think Sif probably has the most to do in the film, but Fandral has moments that could have been great, but it's distracting because it's a recast, so it automatically becomes one of those things like whenever you recast someone, there's that hurdle to get over. Not that like Fandral was huge in the first film either; he wasn't like huge character,
No,
but it's
right.
still kind of like a hurdle. Oh, that's this guy. Okay, but then you get past that, it doesn't feel like a character anymore. It just feels like a caricature, and it doesn't work. Ray Stevenson, love what Ray Stevenson's trying to do. He
Yeah.
doesn't. They needed to use him more as well, but that was too much humor for them, I think, at this point.
Well, and I'll even argue for Jamie Alexander, like the
She's
little
good.
bit
She's fine.
she's good,
Yeah,
like,
she's fine.
but she just doesn't have anything to do.
Right. It's just nothing. It almost feels like there's so much they could have done. There was like they hinted at things like between her and Jane Foster.
Mhm.
There's that relationship they could have made clear or made like this kind of like tension between them, but it feels like it's like hinted at, but like they don't do anything with it. And it's kind of like, okay, well then what are we here for? Her and Loki have much. I mean, her in the beginning, like that, my favorite bit was probably her and Thor in the beginning, during their like little battle they had with the thing. And you know what? Funny enough, like the first battle that Thor has when he fights the big rock troll thing,
Yeah,
that was probably the closest we got to an MCU moment outside. Like
yeah,
when he knocks the head off, he's like, anybody else? That felt like a good big MCU one that we could have built on.
mhm.
And him in conversation with Sif there, solid, and everything else. That was kind of good. It just went all downhill after that for them.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I mean, the movie starts actually fairly promising outside of we don't the
Generic
Dark Elves
Mola,
prologue is so whatever.
generic and boring.
Yeah. It's so generic, it's so boring, it sets up nothing. I'll say though, there is a really cool shot when the Dark Elves get to Asgard, and I credit them for doing this.
Mhm.
There's a shot of the Dark Elves inside the ship where it's all black and red,
Uh-huh.
and the Dark Elves actually look kinda creepy in a cool way in this shot, and it actually made them kinda creepy and weird. I but after that, it doesn't really matter because it just like it doesn't do anything. Like they're just so boring after that. But
Isn't there
there is this one moment where I'm like, "Oh god, they're actually kind of spooky and like scary looking." And I kind of dug that. But I just don't care.
you know what they remind me of too? It almost reminds me of like the bad Doctor Doom mask that was on like Fantastic Four, like in
Yeah, a
the in
little bit.
the Tim Story
Fan
movies or
Four
whatever.
stick.
Yeah, it just feels like it's like this like badly placed. Like Chris Eccleston can't act through that anyway. Um, he's basically
What is the
misdesigned.
makeup job on him, man?
I don't know. I don't know. They should have just sometimes less is more. And like you might get some pushback where, oh, it looks too human. They should look more. Yeah, but then you don't get a great performance sometimes. It's hard to
No.
work through that. He could because he's capable of delivering a great performance. He's capable of being a very chilling villain.
I mean, to that point, right? His right hand is played by Mr. Echo,
Right.
Adewale, who I'm not even gonna try. I can never say the back end of his name, but Adewale was Mr. Echo in Lost. If you've seen, or he's in The Mummy Returns. He's a great actor, and he's just a CGI monstrosity that looks like the brother of a predator who was kicked out of the movie. Like he looks like Timu Predator,
He really does.
and
You
it's
said
so
that.
baffling.
I can't unsay it now. And I was like,
Uh,
and that what feels like this entire movie feels like half the time. This generic thing, it just feels like a team version of what a Thor movie should be. Um,
It's so true, and
like a
I
picture,
feel
it's you
bad.
could sell it. You could sell it as a picture online. It looks, oh, that looks great. That would look great in my quarter. Then you get it and like you put it up, you're kind of like, oh, it's a little chintzy. It's a little not really good. Yeah, that's why it's so cheap, kind of
It's
thing.
honestly baffling to me how much I don't like this movie. It's so funny. Keep looking at the camera, and Hope is just off camera, and she keeps stretching, and I see her paws like going up and down because she's just out of frame. And that is more cute and adorable and catching my attention
It
more
is.
than any of this movie did last night while I was watching it. You're
That's
so cute,
fair.
Dogger.
That is absolutely fair, and get more power to
Uh,
you. We love a hope. Love
we
a
do
hope.
love a Hope cameo. Um, God, dude, like it bums me out because I don't like being hard on movies.
Mhm.
I will be obviously, like I will be brutally honest, but it bums me out when I get this frustrated because I also see the potential in this movie of 100 different things you could have done, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like I don't why is Darcy back in this? Not because I don't like Kat Dennings, but what's the point of Darcy's involvement in this? Why is Chris O'Dowd in this movie?
Why? Yeah, that one you mentioned that too. Like it's such a waste of his talents, such a waste of a
Yes.
character. Like you got Chris O'Dowd, you're gonna put him in this like thankless role. Like was it like a humorous scene, a little bit humorous, like the dinner sequence where like Natalie's trying to get Jane Foster's trying to get back out on the dating scene. There's some humorous bits there, mainly because of Chris O'Dowd's reactions and stuff. Because I'll be honest with you, I love Natalie Portman, but it is so obvious that she does not want to be doing this movie at
No,
all. And I know
not
that
even a little bit.
partially because it actually did come out that I could think that like after because Kenneth Branagh was initially going to be using talks to do this film, and he
Right.
dropped out. That's when Alan Taylor came in, and when that happened, when Kenneth Branagh left, like Natalie Portman was like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do it either," but she was under contract, so she had to. And I mean, she's professional enough, but at the same time, sometimes you just can feel when there's no passion for the character, and there just isn't. He's just kind of like saying lines, there. Kat Dennings almost feels like that too, but it almost feels like she has roles like later on when she's in WandaVision. Love her. Love her. She feels like that. Feels like Kat Dennings again. Yeah, that feels like
Well, honestly, I would even argue that when you get to Love and Thunder, one of the things that's really great about that movie, I think Portman's really good in it.
I do
Like,
too.
I do, and that's jumping quite ahead, but like Portman's really good in Love and Thunder.
Yeah, you can
So
argue the story there, her story isn't well done. Some people don't like her story in there, and we'll get to that for her. But Jane definitely wanted to do that story, wanted to do that movie with Chris and with Thor and everything else.
yeah, and I think
yeah,
you have Taika involved, so she's working with a different director and stuff.
right.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, so she just doesn't. And being that she's in most of this movie, she's a big part of this movie. That when she's not dialed in, how are we supposed to be dialed in? Because Chris doesn't even seem dialed in, and that's part of the problem too. Like we said, Chris seems like he wants to. I mean, he came out saying he wants to do. It's funny because Chris is he's very vocal about what he wants to do with Thor. He's like they wanted to make Thor more humorous, like his Avengers appearance, right? After this film came out, that's when he kind of said he'd like to do something. That's why he loves Ragnarok. He also famously has come out since Love and Thunder and said, well, maybe we went a little too far the humor direction. Let's like step it back a little bit, kind of thing, find that balance, which fair. That's an argument to be made. We'll get there for sure. But in this film, it does feel a little more like I feel like he wants the movie to be good, but he just can't do much with what he's given.
yeah, dude, and that's again it's the whole movie, and I feel so bad that I'm so down on it. But like within this film, the best thing that it gave us was that they could use footage for it in Deadpool and Wolverine of Thor holding Deadpool and crying over his body.
Right.
What does that tell you? Like, there is nothing in this film that really works. Like, I love that they have Renee Russo in this as Frigga. I've loved her since the first one. But guess what? You don't do anything with her. Then by the time you finally do something with her, you kill her off. And I have no emotional attachment to her other than the fact that I know she's Renee Russo.
Yeah. And she plays it well.
Yeah.
She
no doubt about it.
And Tom Hiddlston plays off her death well. I mentioned that too. It was like she had this death scene that I know I'm supposed to feel something for. Loki feels something for her. And that's part of my favorite scene is Loki's response to her death. But the death itself, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And and I gotta say also, Innocent, Brian Tyler's score is really good. Like I like his score; it works well for it. And like that moment was well scored. I'm like, that's the appropriate music that's coming up. That's the one supposed to make me get all like sad about it. But I'm like, I don't feel connected to it on screen at all. I'm like, okay, let's move on.
100%. And the third act of this movie does the mortal sin of they spend so much time making this movie in particular about just being off Earth for the most part, only to have the big battle in the middle of London. And
what
you're like,
that?
Why are we not just doing all of this in Asgard or anywhere else? Like, why did we move it back?
They even said it at one point. I think it was a Sith who said that there's 9 realms. You can't just concentrate on one. have it in any other realm at this point. And I understand like the argument against that as well. It's Thor on Earth. That's the story of Thor Marvel Comics. Thor is on Midgard. That's his thing. Yeah, but you don't have this entire movie. We spent a lot of time on Earth last film, and we liked it. But
and
like
we
this
spent
is
a lot of time with him in the Avengers on Earth.
On Earth, and but this is a movie that has all its basis is in Asgard and not on Earth. There's a little bits and pieces on Earth, but once you get Jane Foster there, everything else seems secondary. You have what Cat on Earth. Don't get me started on Darcy's like intern. That was like the stupidest thing there. Like, it wasn't even funny. And like, no offense to the actor. I don't even know his name, but like, I mean, he's whatever. It's just a nothing burger character with no real important lines and no humor to it. Stellan Skarsgård's there as well. Again, innocent, trying his best to add some kind of chaotic energy to it, and he's actually
leads to another terrible Stan Lee cameo. Which can I have my? Although I'll say he delivers. Can I have my shoe back nicely? But like, it's just there.
It's funny. Like I actually do like the cameo a lot more than you did, and I think I probably would rank it a lot higher than you will probably, only because of his delivery. I loved his delivery of it. It actually made me chuckle. I guess it's partially because it was a highlight.
Yeah.
Stanley cameo really shouldn't be like a top highlight of the film. Like it should be a great moment and a fun chuckle moment. But when it's one of your time, it's like that's one of your best moments in the film. That could be a problem. And this is what it is for me. It's one of the best moments. It's one of the funniest moments of the film. Kind of like where's his energy throughout.
I do appreciate that they do try with his cameos to at least be like witty in some capacity.
Right.
It's why I thought he'd be taller remains one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's good. That's true. What else you got? Oh, Idris Elba. Wasted again. I mean, Idris Elba's been wasted throughout the entirety of the MCU. Let's be honest with you. He has some moments later on in Ragnarok and stuff, which is solid. But like, I feel like you have Idris Elba, you should be using him more. You should be doing something with him, especially because Heimdall's a great character overall. He's just kind of there. God, so many things. Anthony Hopkins does his fine work. He's just too good of an actor not to be good, but it's just
The amazing thing about Anthony Hopkins is when he got the script for the original, I remember him saying something along the lines of they handed him the script, he looked at it, and what did he write? He was like, "Can do this in my sleep," or something like that, and not in a like mean way, but it was like it doesn't require a lot from him to just be Anthony Hopkins level of good with a certain character.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad he has a little more to do in this one, comparatively to the last one, because he's not asleep for a lot of it.
Right. But he has great moments. He does have some good moments. I actually liked like in the scene in the beginning when he's talking to Loki, he's like, Loki's trying to go, "What was my birthright? Your birthright was to die."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Like that's strong. That's a very strong way to do it. I like that. And he has, like I said, he has his moments, but it just kind of like feels like it's not enough to make it worthwhile.
It's not. And the truth of the matter is that that's unfortunately the entire movie. And I know that we're 45 minutes in and we really are like just kind of circling the drain of why this movie doesn't really work, but it just in no way pushes the story forward in any interesting way. It feels like it's trying super hard to tie up loose ends from the first movie without also
in the Avengers as well.
Yeah, but also not really pushing the story forward. As strange that it doesn't even feel like a proper bridge film. And I'm not saying that it should, but it just doesn't feel like a real movie.
When people say the MCU has a villain problem, this is like one of the prime examples. Like the villain is just a placeholder. There's no personality to the villain. There's no personality to his motivations, his story. He's just this is a bad guy who wants to take over the world. Go. Okay, just do enough and we'll move on. We're all building to Thanos anyway, whatever. And just like it doesn't work because of that. You need to have moments with these villains, to have these stepping stone moments to make it worthwhile to get to the next film. Like in the first film, Loki was a brilliant villain, especially in the Thor series. You're going from Loki as your villain to this Christopher Eccleston like mannequin like villain.
And what's crazy is that Malekith should be a great villain because he's being played by a great actor. And I'm like, this is not on Chris.
No,
Eccleston's an incredible actor. Like, he's a stage actor. The dude can fucking put the work in,
Mhm.
but he's just not given anything to do, man. Like, and it just I don't understand.
I don't either. I
I
don't get
think
that.
he delivers the Elvish language stuff in a very cool way. I will say that.
Mhm,
Just
mhm,
because I like that they did go that far, but
mhm.
it's just not like he has anything to do, and that sucks.
Yeah, he should have been a much like it feels like they want him to be this big villain, like this big with big stakes and everything else. But even though the stakes are, supposedly high, but they don't feel high. They don't feel big. They don't feel like there's anything but like a pause for, well, we need to get something out in the theaters before we move on to the Avengers, Age of Ultron. We need a phase 2 Thor story at this point. Like we're talking about phase 2 now, like Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, and Captain America. That's the trilogy. That's the three like Avenger
Yeah.
movies. Obviously, Guardians also comes into play here, and that's another thing. But comparatively, like, those movies, all three of those movies, Cap, Winter Soldier, which we'll get to, Guardians, which we'll get to, and Iron Man 3 are both also vibrant, energetic, and they feel like they're doing something with the character or at least with the universe.
Mhm.
This just feels like a bookmark, like a holding spot. Like, oh,
Right. And I was gonna say you brought up like when people talk about the villain problem, but I would also argue this is the problem that when people talk about the MCU having movies that don't add anything and you're just doing it just for the sake of doing it, just to like put a piece here for another movie, this is that movie. I,
yeah.
I really think that this is the poster child for when you drop the ball on the Marvel movies in a bad way. Just because you're trying so hard to put pieces together just to do a thing, but it doesn't mean you should. This was
Right.
the movie that should have had more time taken just to get it together.
I
And remember, at one point, Patty Jenkins of Wonder Woman fame was going to direct this.
I remember that as someone who's involved. Yes, absolutely. She
Like,
could have done something with this. She's a great
well,
director.
that's why she walked away because
I know.
they she could already see the writing on the wall. And like,
Mhm.
look, I'm not going to pretend that she's got a perfect track record. Obviously, like your mileage may
Well,
vary on Wonder Woman 84, but like she
I would
knows what she's
argue.
doing.
I would argue her directorship is not the problem with Wonder Woman 84 anyway. I think she's not. I
Right.
don't think she's a good writer. I think that's the problem. She did not.
Uh,
She wrote Wonder Woman. She did not write Wonder Woman, but she wrote Wonder Woman 84, and you could kind of see the cracks there. I think.
yeah.
I think getting her in front of getting her a camera, letting her direct a film, I think is a proper choice. I'd be hesitant giving her a script, which is why I'm always worried about her Star Wars thing. And if that ever comes to play, because she was like writing the Rogue Squadron, like give her the film to make. Just don't
Right.
let her write. Like that's somebody else to write it for her.
Yeah.
I don't
I
personally.
just
So far.
I'm just I'm so bummed, man.
No.
I really am because this is the one time, and thankfully it's the only time really that I'm really going to be down on the MCU. But like, this is just not good.
I
Like,
want the films of today, like the people who have like had problems to read. Let's be honest, a lot of people have problems with the more recent MCU. It's been on
right?
decline, whatever, yada yada. People like have been trashing a lot of these movies and everything else. I want them to like seriously go back to this film and like compare it to at least like most of the films that I've seen in the MCU recently, um, even the ones that have been not liked, are swings.
Yeah.
They're big swings at something. They're vibrant. They're colorful. They're out there. You could say they're a little unhinged, and maybe they should be reined in a little bit. Maybe that's the problem for some of these big movies, like Thor: Love and Thunder. Maybe we like it more than
Quantumania.
those. Quantum Mania. Maybe they needed to be. Maybe they needed to be reined in a little bit. Maybe that's what would have been. Maybe that would have been a better choice.
Mhm.
Multiverse of Madness. Maybe they should have been reined in, but they do take some pretty
No, they
big
were
swings
Raimi'd out, and it
overall.
was much better.
I know I'm, but I was saying
I know. I'm
compared
just
to like
being
the main. I mean, we like those movies, and if you hate those movies, you're not going to come here and listen to us rant to them. Well, you're not going to be too satisfied because we're going to talk pretty well about them, I believe.
yeah.
But that I want you to take a look at that and take a look at this because this is what when you're too reined in, and you're too straightforward, and you're too trying to like just be something you're not. That's what happens, and you don't have anything important to say. You don't have any character to your story. You don't have any. There's nothing to this that's distinguishable. It's forgettable, and that's the worst thing you can do in a
It's
comic movie.
absolutely the worst thing that you can do. And again, there's a reason that you even said it. There's a reason that they did such a 180 once they got to Ragnarok
Mm-hmm.
because they knew they had to. if they didn't, then what? Like, there's no world where this movie or that movie ends up being such a 180 because of this.
Right.
And they realized that they had just made Thor boring.
Right.
Like, he just wasn't working as a character, and that sucks, dude. Like, why is there nothing memorable about any of the battles? Why is there nothing memorable about any of the character interactions? Like, yeah, like when Loki dies, like it's a nice moment between Hemsworth and Hiddleston, but like, is that enough? No.
No, no. And I will say also the Loki, it is a joke now in the MCU, and I think this is one of the things they could have taken out. Like the Loki dying thing becomes such like a joke, and like it has less stakes every time because we've seen it happen a couple times now. It's like he died in the first film, he died like now he dies again, and then he dies later on, and like it just feels like this
He's
death
the
is
Kenny
the
of the
most
MCU.
use them. Yeah, you bastard, you killed Loki. It feels like this is the one that they could have taken out. They should have taken out. They shouldn't have had him die at all. Like he could have like left or something, or they could have like, or even left him wounded or something, or he got left behind or something like that, and then he appears at the end. But like you kill him off, and then you undo it by having him appear at the end anyway. So
Yeah.
it feels like this weird like, what are you trying to do with that? Are you trying just for the emotional heartstring pull? It didn't really work.
I don't know, man. And it just feels like this is one of those times where it's a shorter podcast because of it, but like there's just nothing to talk about with this movie other than being down on it either. And that's not fun. You know, like it's not fun to feel this way. It's not fun to be down on a thing and not having a lot to say about it at the same time. Like there's just nothing to this movie. There's not. It had a weird road coming together and being put together, but there's just nothing to this film.
Did you know that Loki was actually originally intended to die in this movie, and they changed their minds?
Yeah.
For the test screenings, audiences doing stuff. But
And you know what's also crazy?
what?
Both Mads Mikkelsen and Benedict Cumberbatch almost got put into this film as Malekith. Thank God
Yeah.
that didn't happen because we ended up getting Cumberbatch later. Now, Mads is kind of also a little forgettable. We will run into that with the first Doctor Strange movie. Like, not the world's best villain, but at least he was in something where I'm going to recognize him and he's trying.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
I feel bad for Christopher Eccleston, man. Like, the dude really is trying, but there's nothing to that character. There's nothing to this whole movie. And I'll say this, I appreciate that they shot so much of it, like, you know, out in real locations and stuff for the different realms. Like, it looks amazing,
Yeah.
in certain, like, from a tactical style.
Agreed.
The movie looks garbage otherwise. Like, it's dark, it's dour, there's no color to it. Like, it's very ugly movie otherwise.
The only time there's color is the mid-credit scene with the collector, and that's basically because James Gunn directed it.
Yeah, 100%. So when they announced this movie, I was actually in Hall H.
Oh, okay.
When Hiddleston actually showed up as Loki.
Oh, nice.
And so that I'll say that is my one like thing that I do have a soft spot for this movie only because I was in the room when they did the big him on stage as Loki, which was so cool. Just like that was cool because Tom Hiddleston's great, man. Like the dude really he loves this role and you can tell and they really lean in on that and I love that for us. Like so that was neat, but like goddamn dude.
I think honestly, and this might anger some Chris Evans fans, but outside of RDJ, I think Tom is actually the best Marvel ambassador we have. As far as like
I think
love
so
for the
too.
franchise, love for the universe, and wanting to do well for it.
He continues to come back and he continues to champion it, and I think that's huge. In the same way that Downey Jr. has been. Like I'll say I've loved. Not that it should need it because I actually think Ironheart's really good without his endorsement. But like I really love that he's been going to bat for it. I really love that he's been out there like promoting it, and he doesn't have to.
No,
he doesn't. But I
And
love that.
and the funny thing, and you could argue, and there are people argue out there that it's a desperate ploy by Marvel to do that to try to get interest in it. And you know what? It does have that little bit of there's a little bit of that stench to it. I get that saying, but at the same time, if you just break it down to the heart of it, I love Robert Downey Jr. makes it feel genuine. If you actually watch the videos, it just feels like Robert Downey Jr. being very genuine about it because he really wants his team to succeed. He wants Ironheart to succeed. I feel like he actually it doesn't feel like a fake written script by Marvel or Disney put out. It feels like something he did himself in a way, or even Marvel asked him to, or Marvel might have asked him to. But I think he kind of took it and went, yeah, absolutely. I watch it. I will champion that kind of thing. So it's like that kind of, that's the difference to me. He really takes charge with it and goes with it. And just so you know, guys, by the way, if you haven't seen Ironheart, if you missed it,
it's really good.
It's really good. I mean, we only watched the first 3 episodes right now. The other ones come out tonight, actually. I know you're seeing a long time from now. Actually, even the Patreon. This is a week later on for the Patreon. So you guys
it's already over.
It's already over. But we watched the first 3 and we both came back with, you know what? That's pretty solid. That's pretty overall solid, which is like what MCU has been lately. Like Thunderbolts got missed on by a lot of people. We loved Thunderbolts, and I can't wait to talk about that in this podcast, like in 2 years, or whenever we get to it.
Yeah,
love it though. Love it. And Ironheart, is there problems with it? Is it perfect? It's not perfect by any way, shape, or form. Like I don't like the crew that she's involved with. Like a lot of that, the Hood's crew is kind of like pretty.
Oh God, the Hood is so good.
But the Hood is great. Yeah, the Hood and Anthony Ramos is great. His other character, whatever. But Riri, as a character, I could have cared less about. You'll see when I get to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, I was not like the hugest fan of that movie.
Wakanda Forever, innocent.
But like and I was not a fan of her in that movie at all. That's part of the reason I didn't like it. I felt like it was kind of forced in, and it probably was forced in because the show was like filmed back then and like was supposed to debut a long time ago. And I think I think she was put into Wakanda Forever to kind of like be a backdoor pilot for the Disney Plus series, and here it is years later as she actually comes through. But in her own series, I think she's great. I think she's wonderful. And I will also point out, I must pimp him out, Alden Ehrenreich.
He's so good.
So good. He's so good.
He's so good. And, you know, there's a reveal with his character that is handled in such a great way.
Yes.
He is genuinely just so talented. And it just makes me more angry we have not gotten more with him in Star Wars.
I agree. Somebody actually asked me about that, the red carpet for Ironheart. They said, like, you know, what do you think about like Solo? Like, has kind of got a reappraisal. Like, people are starting to really kind of go bad for it now. I think it's true. It's kind of like after
100%.
a while, people have started to really turn back for it, I guess, in a way. And he seemed very genuinely appreciative of that. He said he has seen that, and it's been very good. And would he come back? He said he would definitely come back for it at some point, I think. And it'd be
something, dude.
They should. He was good. He was good. I know they're scared of it because of the box office failure, but that wasn't his fault. It really wasn't.
I would love if Donald Glover had the fucking balls to actually make the Lando movie a Lando and Han movie.
I think that'd be wonderful. I feel like it's not going to happen.
I know. I
feel like Lucasfilm will put a kibosh on it, I kind of think, because they're scared to touch him, I think, at this point. And I think Donald Glover would be like, well, that then becomes a Han movie, not a Lando movie, kind of thing, which there's an argument for that, I guess, in a way. But to me, give him a shot. Put him in there. It doesn't have to be a big part.
Like, dude, just make it like a buddy comedy in space.
Yeah, absolutely. Make him like a supporting role. You could have it be like Solo Lando for like a good portion of it.
That's what I'm thinking.
Han comes in, and Han comes in for like a mission or something at the end, towards the end, or something like that. That's going to be great.
I want more of Alden as Han. I love Solo. I think Solo is so, all things being equal, considering that's a movie that like had all sorts of shit happen to it just to get to screen.
Went like hell.
Yeah, but like that movie's good and it's
fun. And it's the sound. Yeah. You can criticize some of the darkness of the film. I get that. Whatever you want to talk about. Like, I understand you have your problems with it, but like the story itself and the performances were just fun. People get so particularly harsh on it. It's kind of like, oh my god, the way he got his name was so stupid. It's kind of like, really, you're gonna.
See, I like that. And that feels like the shit that was left in from Lord and Miller, because I know it basically just the stuff from the opening of the movie is kind of their stuff that was left in.
Right.
That always felt like them kind of biting at the like prequel era of doing things, because they like their meta humor. Like that's kind of what that felt like.
It did. That's what it felt like to me too, honestly.
Yeah. And I've always kind of dug that because it just feels so like, yeah, we know it's stupid and that's why we're doing it, because why should it matter? Like, he's Han Solo.
100%. Absolutely.
You know,
We'll talk more about that in 2029 when we cover the Star Wars franchise on here.
Things that see, I would much rather be talking about that right now, though. Like, let's just talk about Solo. It's great.
Yeah.
Solo's fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, like, I'm looking at my notes. Like, I always write. If you watched this show before, our show on this, we had this big long thing, and at the end of wrapping up, I'm like, well, I got like a handful of like quick bit notes that we can run through. Like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And they usually spark a little more conversation. I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, the notes are basically like plot points instead of actual notes. It's kind of like, Malika takes Steve throughout. Odin refuses Thor's plans. Sheldon's at the asylum. Like, it's not like anything notable about them. It's just like plot points. Like, not that I don't do that before, but like those plot points would usually like spark something like, oh, I loved it when this happened. Oh, at the asylum, I love this happened, kind of thing. But like, it's like nothing. Like, the only thing I have that I actually did like was, even though it was another waste of Chris O'Dowd, when when Jane Foster's phone rings and like ringtone comes in, and Thor just goes, "It's not me." Like, Chris Hemsworth delivery there was perfect. It was actually his delivery there was funny. It was a moment I missed throughout the rest of the film. Like, that's what we need, a little bit more of the deadpan kind of stuff. Like, of course, ringtone's not you. That's what's funny about it. I love that. But that's really all I have. That's really all I have on it. I'm like, I got nothing else. I'm like, scratching my head. I'm like,
there's nothing to talk about, dude. Like, it's not good. Like, there's just nothing to this movie. There's not, and I hate that. I hate that I feel that way. But like, it's bad that I watched it last night and I kind of just forgot about it by the time I woke up.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Earth stuff, which we didn't really barely touch on, and there's like we talked about the Asgard stuff, but it's a big nothing burger. So maybe we should just rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's just get out of it, because we're done, obviously, and there's nothing else to talk about.
Now. I don't know how many different ways we can say it's not good. I feel like we've said that 100 times. Like, that's what we just keep coming back to.
Hey guys, if you don't get it yet, we don't particularly like this movie. No. You know why? It's not good.
And I will say, this podcast is going to be a lot shorter than our usual episodes. But quite honestly, I don't know if you realize this. We did zero banter up top. We went right into it.
Well, you know why? Because you and I were doing all of our banter off screen, and we probably should have just been
hit record and just go from there.
Record and done it, but we didn't. So we were just off doing our own thing, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's why it's a lot less time too. So we actually did make pretty good time overall to talk about the movie itself. So yeah, let's finish it up. We got our last things we do. We do the franchise ratings, and we do the Stan Lee cameo. I'm going to do the Stan Lee cameo first. Let's do that first this time around. As the asylum patient, where would we have right now ranked? You have the deleted Avengers 1.
Yeah.
Captain America, the First Avenger. The actual Avengers 1. Thor. Iron Man 2. Incredible Hulk. And Iron Man 3 is your least favorite of the Stan Lee cameos. Or do you want to put...
I'm going to put it above the other Iron Man ones.
Right under Thor, so like
so right under Thor.
Driver one.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. For me, I had a deleted Avengers being the first, Captain America, the First Avenger. I put the Iron Man 2 one here. Then I'm going to put Thor: The Dark World in there over Thor, Avengers, Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 3.
Well, at least Thor: The Dark World had a decent Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, there you go. I'll go with that. Absolutely. Now, the most interesting part of the episode at this point for me, I'm kind of curious where we go here. We're going to rate this son of a bitch on a scale of 1 to 11, because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects, and, go see that sequel this year when it comes out. We'll go through the list like we always do. Iron Man, you gave an 8. I gave an 8. Incredible Hulk, you gave an 8.5. I gave an 8. Iron Man 2, you gave an 8. I gave a 7. Thor, you gave... Guess what? An 8. Uh-huh. I also gave an 8. Captain America, the First Avenger, you gave a perfect 11.
Uh-huh.
I gave it a 9. The Avengers, you gave a 10. I also gave it a 10. Iron Man 3, you gave it a 10.5. I gave it a 9. Thor: The Dark World, my friend. Where are you putting this?
5. The lowest of the low as far as the MCU will go. You did it again, didn't you?
I forgot last time we were supposed to write down my score.
You were.
There. I also gave it a 5.
That just brings me so much joy that so frequently we were just so close.
People are going to think I'm faking this. I really do. I feel bad because I understand why, because it feels like it'd be a bit, but like I really honestly truly I wrote 5 down. I'm like, this is what it's gonna do. I don't know. 5. Next time I promise I can remember. I'm gonna try to write down a reminder to write it. Like I have a
that is
Google
so
sheet.
funny.
I have a Google Doc where I fill in the stuff, but I'll write down on my pad of paper and just boom. To show you what I did, and I got a I also gave a 5.
I mean, look, man, it's bad. Like, and it's forgettable, and it probably deserves almost a lower score, but it's bolstered by Tom Hiddleston. Like that's the thing, is it's bolstered by Tom Hiddleston.
I almost gave it a 6 because of Tom Hiddleston alone. Like I almost want to give it a 6. I feel bad. I feel bad rating it so low for Tom Hiddleston because his parts are probably closer to an 8 or a 9. Honestly, I love his parts in there, but unfortunately, it's everything else wrapped around it, which is the majority of the movie. Unfortunately, I bring it down. So
it is baffling to me that this movie still exists the way that it does, and this is the only movie where I will actually give people like legitimate credence to their like complaints about the MCU. This is the one where I will allow most of the complaints to be lobbed at it because it's fair and it's true. That's it.
Sigh.
Well, at least we're through it.
We are through it. We are done now because after that we move on to much better MCU films that I really can't wait to talk about. I believe next we have Captain America: Winter Soldier. I believe, correct? Yes, that's the next one. Can't wait to do that. And Guardians of the Galaxy is after that. Both are very fun. Loving doing. Can't wait to talk about those. Of course, the second Avengers movie, which has its detractors, but I think we both have a lot to enjoy about that one as well. Yeah, I can't wait for it, man. I'm very excited about it. So
it's actually been a little while since I've watched Winter Soldier. I'm very excited to revisit it.
Me too, especially because like a lot of people consider that to be their top MCU film. There's a lot of people out there that's like, if you list like the films that are always at the top of the list, it's usually Winter Soldier, maybe Infinity War or Endgame. That's really the 2 or the 3 that they're talking about as like top of the level at this point. It was not my favorite, but it was definitely up there for sure. So it's definitely a good, fun film.
I'm excited. It's going to be fun.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited about it. So, all right, folks. PJ, where can the folks find you? Hopefully, you can find you.
What?
Hopefully, they can still find you here after 6 months. But
yeah, right. Well, as far as I'm aware, I'm still on all the social medias at PJ_Campbell. I've been hanging around the Bad Place a little more lately. Not a lot, but I'm there. Mostly over on Blue Sky and Instagram, of course, hanging out here, doing the thing. Or you can find me at the gym. I've been spending a lot of time at the gym lately. There's that.
Yeah. This guy's getting swole over here.
Just, something's got to give.
Absolutely.
My belly has got to give.
Yeah, I'm still working on that a little bit myself. A little bit. I didn't have a great week. I went to Lake George this weekend and had quite a few alcoholic beverages and a lot of bad food and a lot of cheese balls actually throughout that. I don't know.
I fucking love a good cheese ball.
I know. We do. It's my funny. My brother and my sister-in-law. My brother's mother-in-law every week at this camp on Lake George in upstate New York, and like for a week, and then like they have guests in, and like me and Kim went up this weekend for a couple of days, for like Saturday and Sunday. And every year they always bring like this big tub of cheese balls. It's like this tradition out there. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun up there for sure. I'm starting to work that out too. I have to get back into a little bit of shape for that for sure. But you can find me at Blue Sky at social. I do go to the Bad Place occasionally still. I'm still over there mostly for news and because some people didn't make the journey over, so I kind of missed talking to them or seeing their views for sure. like find me all over this podcast or this page, rather I should say, this YouTube page. Or you can join the patreon.com/PLD Projects, or YouTube membership. You can join those. You can get these. Like, we have a whole slew of stuff from the MCU already on there at this point, especially if you're watching this when it's public 6 months from now. But I also do early access for like review and early access for like my Queen podcast and everything else. Reviews on our podcast I do. We did the V franchise, the whole entirety of the visual medium. Now we're going to get into the Big Finish as well as the books and the comics. And we're also doing something called Review Adjacent, which is we're going to do films that are somehow related, either like inspired by, inspirations of, involving characters of. We just did our first one coming out on, if you're listening to, if you're listening on Patreon, even, it already happened. It came out July 4th. We're doing Independence Day. Lego and I got to cover Independence Day, which was a lot of fun. And Crown Jewels, my Queen podcast.
Independence Day is so good. I was so happy when you texted me, because this is one of those things that drives me nuts. Is this like people going back and deciding that things are no longer good? Like, and there's been a weird one around Independence Day where like every 5 years the crowd ebbs and they're like, oh, Independence Day is actually bad. And then 5 years later, they're like, oh, but Independence Day is actually good. And so you texted me and you were like, I don't know what it is, man, but like people do this. And I started to think it was bad, but like, no, it's actually good. And it was like, yeah, Independence Day is just good. Like, it's just good. It's not like it's not an Academy Award winning movie. It's a fun fucking blockbuster.
Actually, funny thing is, it is an Academy Award winning movie. It actually won visual effects.
You know what I'm saying?
It's good. It's funny. No, and I agree. I was one of those people. I kind of remember, like, I watched it a couple of years ago, and it's kind of like I didn't like it as much as being a lot more nitpicky about it. But like, is it that good? And then I watched it again yesterday. I was like, I don't know what I must have been in a horrible mood when I watched it last time, because this is just a lot of fun. Yeah, it's silly. Yeah, it's stupid at times. Yes, I still will say the whole computer virus thing at the end is a little dumb. But it doesn't mean the whole movie is a lot of fun, a lot of action packed. It's got a great kick-ass speech in it from Bill Pullman, which is an all-timer as far as I'm concerned. Love it. So
God, it's so good. And honestly, the funniest thing, for me at least, is the fact that like they've actually made some really good books and stuff after the fact.
Which you mentioned to me at this point. Actually, I've gotten them. I am going to put them into my very long queue. So I don't know when I'll get to them, but they will get to them at some point.
Yeah.
After I read all the Doctor Who books, you also wanted me to read. That kind of thing.
I am exactly the person that people, when I fall in love with an IP, and like I really love when they start to expand the media in other ways, I actually like fully invest in it. And so then I'm the one who's like, have you read the Pacific Rim comics? Because if you haven't read the Pacific Rim comics, and that's a real thing, like I'm not joking about that. They're finally doing the third movie as a comic, at least, which I'm thrilled about.
Pete over here, like, I'm reading the Hellraiser, or I'm reading the Hellboy omnibus and everything else. I know that's not originally a comic anyway, but like you always pinch for all these like movies that you've seen and like how they go on to different things. Like, I know.
It's the autism. It is. It's the autism. I just get really excited, and you know, I do the like hyper focus, and I'm like, oh, all the things, and then you're like, calm down, child.
You know what? It's funny because I do get it, because that's me with Star Wars, right? I will read. I am reading Star Wars. I
own all of them.
Star Wars. I'm reading more Star Wars. I'm going back to Star Wars. I love Star Wars so much that I'm obsessed with it. I do everything with it. I'm doing all sorts of projects with Star Wars stuff. But I never really was one to go into IP outside, like expansions outside of that. But I have started to, and I will say it's partially due to you. You're the one who got me to read the Freddy and Jason comics, favorite Jason comics and stuff. And like I did get a bunch of Doctor Who books, like I've said. I got the Independence Day ones. I got the Batman Resurrection one, which I loved, the J. Jackson Miller one, which is great.
It's so good, dude.
I'm reading some of that stuff. So I'm looking more into doing that kind of stuff. And it's definitely been something I've been really enjoying as well. So yeah, that's what it is at this point.
I love loving things, and this is when I get all excited about shit, because now I'm like, all the things like Doctor Who, because sadly, and by the time this airs,
it is for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, by the time this airs, for the people on YouTube who are not on our Patreon, we'll know the future of Doctor Who.
God, I hope we will. I hope we do.
I'm just so glad that we have all the Big Finish stuff. I'm so glad that there's books. I'm so glad that there's all these things that I can like at least jump into that keeps my love for Doctor Who alive.
Right.
Because God damn it, dude, like I'm just still so down on the Doctor Who thing. I really am.
So am I. So am I. You know, we are. Looking to you. Listen to our end of season 2 State of Doctor Who episode we have on the Big Blue Box. It's here on the channel already, as you can, if you want to look at that as well. And I'll also throw out there real quick. Our banter at the end looks like this time instead of doing it at the beginning.
It's beautiful banter though.
Yes, I also do Holy Snokes.
Big beautiful banter, you might call it.
Big beautiful banter. I like that. I like that much better than the other one. Holy Snokes Star Wars podcast I do with Matt Gunner. We have changed our format. We're going to be doing more of a bi-weekly thing every other week. About once a month, I'll be doing a solo episode with just the news, Star Wars news, and then the other week in that month will be Matty program themed. He might do some solo episodes by himself. He also might do some episodes with me. He's going to do a Kurosawa episode next, talking about Kurosawa. The influence on Star Wars. So that's going to be what he's going to do. And we're going to cover Michael Clayton at one point because it's like kind of Star Wars adjacent because of Tony Gilroy. A lot of good stuff coming out.
So funny enough, right now is the Criterion sale at Barnes & Noble.
Right.
I spent so much on upgrading all of my Kurosawa films to 4K that they have done so far. And so I got Yojimbo, Sanjaro, Seven Samurai, like any of the movies that he has that are on 4K now, you fucking bought them. I had to.
Good for you, my friend. Good for you.
I just love me some Kurosawa, my friend.
So, all right, folks, that'll do it then. We will see you next time. If you're watching on the Patreon, then actually, it's doing Superman stuff. Get to see us cover Superman, the James Gunn version soon. I can't wait to do that. And also next MCU film, Captain America: Winter Soldier. But until then, as always,
bye-bye.